Hi everyone, Mature Simmer here. So I happen to still be on because I've been hard at work the last 2 days, just working on other people's fields. And before I signed off, I wanted to check and see if in fact my fields are going to be ready, and they are. So this day's going to be interesting. So buckle in and get ready for a fun ride. Alright, after a little bit of sleep, I am back here, and I am ready to jump into things, because there's a lot to get done today. Now, I'm going to preface things, I'm having power issues around. We've got some crazy wind, and my power has blinked out once. There is a high possibility I'm going to lose video as I record and make progress, and again, since FSN is real-time servers, there's no way for me to go back and recreate things, so I just do want to be upfront in case something happens. I'm probably going to save in small segments here and there to try to avoid some of that, but sometimes, it just is what it is. So the situation I've got is I want to switch to grass work once I do the harvest. Obviously, I need to do the harvest, and so for the harvest right now, I need a harvester, a header, and it's a corn header because we have sunflowers, so it's not going to be extremely wide, and I need a trailer and a tractor to pull it. Now, one of the things I had debated is, purchasing the tractor that I'm going to use for grass, and that will work for the harvest, and so I am going to do that so that I don't have work time going onto a rented tractor while I'm doing things with the harvest. So let's do that first. Now, unfortunately, there is a tractor here on sale. It's way, way too large. This is a 325 to 445. Some people may want something like that, but this is over 3 times larger than what's really necessary for what we'll be doing to try to save money. So this tractor should be able to do what I need. It's got over 100 horsepower the way I have it configured. I'm not taking it all the way up to 117 as I could. It's an additional $5,000 charge that I don't feel I need to incur. Putting GPS on it, because again, for efficiency, it's something that I'm going to want, because it's just going to make things go faster. It cannot do narrow tires, but again, on grass, I can roll on grass with whatever I need, so that's not going to be a problem. So I'm going to go ahead and purchase this. And the nice thing is, because I had gotten my bank balance up to 132, I've still got 52,000 left. Very, very hopeful, and I'm saying this somewhat tongue-in-cheek, that I am going to be able to do any renting I need with that, but I'm going to do more renting than I was planning initially. But we'll deal with that as each piece comes up. So right now I'm going to leave the tractor at the shop. I'm not going to rent the trailer until I need it. I'm going to go ahead and rent the Rostelmash. Alright, so I've jumped over here to the shop. I'm actually going to just move this out of the way. I don't think it's going to be a problem. I'm not getting that much stuff, but I just want to be sure. Okay, so in the couple days, as I've been doing contracts, I've been trying to figure out what makes the most sense. So obviously the least expensive corn header is this one. 6 miles an hour, 3.4 meters. I can lease that for $969. You'll notice it's, basically $400 per hour extra. Then the next size up, and they're all the same because they're $53,000, and as you recall, leasing is based on the purchase price. This is basically 3 times as expensive, a little bit more per working hour. However, doing a work time calculation, it could be close with this 3.4 meters across my farm, especially given if I fill a trailer and I'm having to wait for me to go figure out where I'm selling and so forth. I just would prefer to avoid a problem. So once again, I'm trying to figure out the best place. So ultimately right now it's Le Jardin. Defermier's farm shop is a little bit more than the grain elevator, but they're both up on the north end of the map. So I'm literally trying to do everything I can to make sure that I can just jump in and go, and that I avoid an extra hour on the harvester if at all possible. Now the key difference here is the Rostelmash, and this is the one I'm going with, so I'm going to go ahead and lease this once I'm done explaining, but the key point here is this. 1,575 hours, you know, is going to be, you know, a little bit less if I end up taking a second hour or so forth. You know, it's going to charge me $1,500 if I need that, you know, plus the other costs. So that's what I'm weighing as I'm trying to figure out which header to go with. So I apologize. This is actually my rate on the harvester because I need the GPS. Again, I want to be super efficient. I don't want to be guessing on rows and trying to steer myself along here. All right, so I've got that leased, and then I'm going to go ahead with the wide header, and the reasoning is, even though this is basically $1,800 more per day, if I simply extend the harvester for another hour and then add, you know, the $300 smaller header, that would be enough that it now has cost me more to have that second working hour. So let's get going, but you can see it's cost me $7,000 to lease. And so this will be a little bit cleaner to understand, again, the reason that it's just hard. And it's going to be very, very hard for anybody to be successful with crops. So as I drive over, I'm going to get my harvester open. I don't have to open it. I think I remember this from last time. And so once again, now this should take me, and keep in mind, a work time calculation is simply work time on the field. Every time I have to turn around, anything I'm doing, unloading, this, driving, so forth, is not in that. So with this header, I can get the field done in basically 0.34 hours, the two fields. Otherwise, it would be closer to 0.79 hours, which is my issue, is I had, you know, 2/10 of an hour, which is basically 12 minutes of spare time. And I think it's unlikely that I'm going to be able to make all the turns I need to make and so forth within that time. All right, so I've got my header down. I'm trying to back up. It is not moving. So this is exactly what I'm talking about from the challenge standpoint. All right, so we're going to start here, and we are harvesting. Set my line as quickly as I can. Oop, can't do it that quickly, obviously. And then lock in here. And most importantly, because the header, for some reason, well, any of the width settings I've noticed kind of, even though I do it ahead of time, why is this not moving? Wow. Well, I'm glad I did what I did, because if this is the behavior I'm going to get, what is happening and why am I only going? Am I missing some kind of a connection? No. Goodness. Alright, well, best laid plans. I'm going to have a problem here, I think. And I'm wondering if it's because the header is so large and the horsepower that I have for this is the challenge. Because I can only go 2 miles an hour. Now, again, this may not be catastrophic. Alright, well, now I'm going 4. So this is really interesting, but now I'm going 2. Oh boy, and now I'm going 1. Ugh. Alright. Clearly this is unworkable, so I gotta go back and get the smaller header and pray that works. Otherwise I'm really digging myself here. Goodness gracious. Well, that is not something I counted on. Alright, I have got my things are not working here. What is going on? I've got a terrible lock in and lag with this. So I just destroyed some of my crops, which also doesn't help anything. So I'm likely going to be burning another hour on this harvester, just because of the reality of what I'm running into here. But the cost of anything else would be 3 times as much. Now, I'm hoping I don't get to the point where I have no choice but to do that. Because what could happen is, even with this 3.4 meter header, it may prove overwhelming for the harvester. I'm hoping that's not the case. But once again, we're in the world of best laid plans, and so you can start to see why I pressed myself so hard the last couple days to just maximize what I could do as far as income, because stuff like this happens. So again, I basically got a $2,700 hit that I've now incurred that is a loss that I have because of just trying to do something more effectively. And so the challenge is going to become, again, if I can't move with this at 6 miles per hour when I'm going, I'm gonna have an issue. Here we go. It's not quite half the size, but I'm hoping that it's, close to half the horsepower. It's probably a little bit more. But just turn this GPS back on. So when I get there, now again, I need to shrink this. But yeah, when I get down to 0, and again, this isn't a flat map, which is part of the challenge. Obviously, if I'm moving at 0 or even 1, like, that's just both mentally and realistically unbearable. I mean, I'd be talking about 3 or 4 hours, and it's not that I may not have the physical time to do that, but once again, having all of that leasing time continue to pile up if I was going forth with crops. So that this already, I mean, I'm pretty solidified in my deal here that there's no way I'm doing this and continuing with crops, because this is exactly my point. Like, it's totally unforgiving, and I've seen folks, rent much larger harvesters. There was someone else who had a field of sunflowers. I haven't connected this up, so let me get in there, turn on my light. Alright, no hoses that I can see. Alright, so let's see, and hopefully this will just go down to 6 and then go. Now the good news is I see 6, so this might be workable. And other than I probably took out, hopefully just a few dozen liters, hopefully nothing more than that. The yield on sunflowers is not that incredibly high, which I think is partially why we're seeing the prices that we normally do being much higher, because it's just normal supply and demand. Alright, I am getting something off, so the likelihood would be, I don't know, I'm second guessing myself a little bit, but if it comes down to a few seconds, I'm probably doomed anyway, because this is really going to be maybe 30 seconds to get to the end of this row. I just wasn't sure if going the other way, if I would catch it all. And I just really would like to get the majority of what I've got. I'm going to run a couple ends here, because I just don't want to be fighting with the trees. And this is kind of exactly the situation that I'm going to need to fight against, is being as effective as I can. So I'm going to move down to the other field. Now, it's hard to tell with the numbers. I'm kind of trying to keep an eye on the acceleration here. This field has weeds, and then if you recall, the other one does not. So I'm lifting and lowering my header just, to gain a second or something. I'd like to say this is a little faster, So in theory, I'm getting, and I should be getting a higher yield because I think the field 40 was 112. This field is like 122 or 123 is what it was reporting. So you can see I'm getting that really bright green, but now down here I fall down because my soil type is different here. I'm falling down into the yellow. So I'm gonna run up and down here a few times. We're obviously at 528. The challenge I'm gonna have is, well, I'm just gonna run because I'm not gonna finish this any different, and I think I want to go at least this far, so I'm gonna just run through the middle here. I'm not gonna fill up before I get back, so that's okay. And I don't have to be perfect, but I just want to give myself enough room to turn, because obviously destroying the crops, I don't want to do that kind of on either end. So on this field, I'm also going to run some rows on the other side, because while I could turn around with the harvester, it definitely was a bit of a challenge when I tried to do it before. So this is my immediate need. I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm additionally going to need to rent a trailer, so we're kind of going to see what it looks like. But once again, I'm looking at additional rental to get the field ready with grass, and I'll explain that in more detail when I get there. So I'm still comfortable that I'm not going to go into Loan World right now, just in leasing. Now, once I'm buying everything, I don't have enough to set myself up for grass, but I can wait a little bit with some things. So I'm going to keep working on this, and I will basically give you an update once I'm done on how things turned out. And obviously the biggest issue is going to be, at a minimum, have we recovered our costs for leasing with what we harvested, and that will again start to show us what the picture would look like if this was what we were just blazing forth with full time. So I'll see you in a bit. Alright, I'm popping back in because I'm settling in for the reality that this is going to be a problem in the harvest today. Now, there's only so much I can do. Well, there's nothing I can do to control things, but the power basically had a problem again, so I had to get kicked out. And so what I was worried about is kind of exactly the behavior that I'm seeing here, which again, now I think I've destroyed a bunch of crop because I had my header up. Well, it wasn't too bad. But I have to reset my GPS. I have to do all kinds of things because of what happened. Aside from now the fact that I'm no good. Now I've got a wheel problem. So let me try to deal with this here, and then we'll worry about that later. So, alright. So I think I'm okay. But when you lose power, the equipment keeps going because I'm on cruise control. I could have come back in here to this harvester in the river, which would have been ridiculous. But the very nature of it is, I probably lost 10 minutes just trying to get something completed. But or get back in and make sure things were good. And normally I would wait longer, but I now have a harvester, come on, that is being rented, and the server time goes on. Now, again, the work time, because I think it's engine hours, like this thing was running. So I don't know because it wouldn't move when I jumped on if my engine had turned off when it booted me from the server or not. And the challenge is, like, right now, if it was to die on me, and I'm moving forward and I was on cruise control, which I wasn't, so it would have been less of a problem. It would just barrel through the crops and I'd destroy all those crops. So that's what I'm facing, but there's no way that this is going to be an hour, so expect the lease costs to be higher just because of the realities that are going on around me. I keep remembering things I was going to say every time I stop recording. So I was expecting to get 27,000 liters off these fields by the time we're done. We'll ultimately see where that's going to end up. Again, this harvester does about 4,500 per, so I've already done exactly that in the trailer. I'll just go ahead because it's simpler at this point to just, and faster to go this route. I'm still obviously trying to be as efficient as I can, but the challenge is it creates likelihood of errors that are going to cause me a problem. But I have 27,000. I have to take them up. I can either sell here or I can sell here. Now, this pays a little bit more. This has a huge hill, however. I think they're both a challenge to get to. So I'm going to try to go here first, but I'm going to see, because then, I can go up here and just head up. To me, it's just a little bit cleaner. I got to be careful because rotating out, and I'm probably killing crop just because I have this implement here, which is ridiculous. Alright. So I'm looking at 27,000 liters is what I think I'm gonna get based on what came off another field that was similar in size that I was then estimating based on. But obviously there's going to be a little bit of fluctuation there. And it's just going to be, once again, a matter of, is that going to cover everything? At a minimum, if I break even here, I'll be happy. If I make a profit, I'll be ecstatic. I just don't know that that's even going to... And that's just, of what I'm doing right now. So keep in mind, like, there were costs here to plant this field, to do other things. Like, I'm just trying to be completely repetitive of the standpoint. Like, this is why I think if someone tries to do crops on this map, it's likely not going to be pleasant. It's going to be very difficult to be successful, and we're just going to do the best we can with what we've got. I'm honestly beginning to wonder, because it's going to change quickly. I was beginning to wonder if going north-south across the two fields would be more efficient. Like, once again, I'm turning less, but I don't know that it really would be. I mean, at the end of the day, the fields are roughly square in what I've got, and so yeah, sorry, stream of consciousness. I mean, it's kind of the reality of how this series works. This isn't something I can nicely script and I can put together. I've got to think on my feet, and I've got to operate accordingly. So my challenge here is I want to lift this header because, as you can see, like, I can move a lot faster. So to make my turns as quickly as I can, I want to lift it. The problem becomes if I have lag, I run the risk of jamming into the field and taking out crops. Now, once again, you can see, I mean, I'm moving at 6 miles an hour, and you can almost see I'm going up at like 2, 3, 4 liters every tick. Now, the ticks are more than each second, but it's like if I run over something, I'm not taking out hundreds of liters. I'm knocking out a dozen or so, more than likely. It's not substantial, but you're kind of getting an idea, because it was a little bit deceiving, I think, because I did these 2 long, well, really 4 long headlands up and down the side here with the harvester the first time. So initially it looks like, my goodness, you've already got 4,500. Like, you're insane. You're going to get way more than See, and I almost forgot to lower my header. You're going to get way more than 27,000 off these fields, but you can start to see now, you know, we filled up, and yes, I was turned out, but you can see the wheel patterns there. So I'm probably 4 or 5 passes further away now from where I was when I started, and I'm about half full, so I'm going to get another 8. Now, I did look, the edge of this field is 19, -9 or plus 19, so I've got 12 more rows here, and then I'm done with this field. I'm going to now stop here, back this up, and I'm going to shove this lime away so that, again, I'm not dealing with it. Okay, I thought I was going to shove the lime away. Why? I mean, it's seriously going to go over the top? You've got to be kidding me. There we go. I think it was just because I was uphill at that moment. Alright. So now I don't have to sit there and worry about, I'm going to shove it into the field, it's going to be in my way, I'm going to have all these other things going on. So I'm tempting fate here because, you know, with my luck the power's going to go off. So I'm going to shut up now so that I can stop this. If I somehow think of something else, I'll pop back in. One other thing that I've wanted to share, so you can see I've got 0.5 hours of work time. Obviously this header's a little bit less because I worked however many minutes or something, but you know, we're just about done with this field. I mean, we're not going to get done in an hour, but unless something catastrophic happens, I think 2 is going to be more than enough time. So I've gone ahead and already delivered 1 load. So again, because I want to be efficient, I'm going to keep moving, and I'm going to try to talk more specifically when I'm come on. It's just so ridiculously ineffective how sometimes this works. Oh, I didn't realize, I thought I had picked it up. So you can see here 5278 and then 527. The other thing we've got going for us right now in our leasing is 8848. So I'm just about there, but the other thing I have going for me now is the environmental score on our fields is 83. So you can see I've got a 10% bonus, but the weed control is exactly what I figured it would be, because I did nothing with weeds. That stayed at 15, but you know, I'll take that. I mean, I could get another 5%, but right now it doesn't make a lot of sense to do that, which is why I didn't. But now you can see we're at 0.6 hours. So I am shutting off the engine when I drive because it does take a little while to get up there. But, you know, a load right now is about 5,700, and that trailer holds 8,000, where this harvester does, I thought it was 4,500, but it's actually 4,900. So I've gotten about, at this point I've exceeded 10,000 off the field. I'm probably closer to 12. And once again, if I get maybe 15 off the other one, this 27's, you know, starting to look like a good educated guess that I had about where I'm going to end up here. So, well, the good news is this field next to me is not have anything in it, so I can roll into it without any danger. So that will help because I don't have to play any games. I can just continue to go back and forth. So I think at this point I'm where I'm at. We'll take a look at the finances when we're done harvesting, and then we'll move on to the next step. Alright, so I'm turning off the harvester. You can see we're at 1.3 hours. So that has helped because if you recall, about 5:22 is when we started on this field. So it's been about 2 hours since we started with the harvester on the field. And we've only got 1.3 hours charged against us. Now, I was hoping to capture the actual difference, because normally it pops up on the screen. I thought it might have done it at the top of the hour, so I was recording at 7 just in case it did. It never did, so I didn't hop on there specifically. But I certainly saw my balance change and go down, and when I've looked over at the finance screen, instead of the 8,800 I think we were at to begin with, we are higher than that. So we'll cover that in the financial piece, but let me get this load up to the sell point, and I'll talk to you in a bit. Pulling into Le Jardin des Fermiers. We're going to go ahead and sell our product here. So obviously we're going to get over 60,000 in our coffers again. But the most important thing that you'll see here when we get to the end is that we get a $524 environmental score award. So we have gotten our harvest up actually to 11% now, the bonus, and that's simply because as we've harvested more and more of the field, we've gotten to the point where we've gotten more and more credit for the nitrogen. So you'll see I'm at 29.3. It's really, telling me it's 10, but obviously we're getting a tiny bit more, so I think it really calculates to a very specific granular level in the background. So I have covered my harvest rental costs, because once again I'm going to have probably 3,000 more liters to go ahead and take back up in the final run, because I've got about 2,000 in the harvester, as you saw, and then I still have to pull off one more row off the field, which might get close to 900 liters, which would get me right up around 3,000, but I'll be closer to 3,000 than I will be to 2. That's for sure. But let me get all that done, and then I will come back, and before we move on, we'll get into some financial details. Alright, so in preparation, I've unloaded my seeds. I've got 159 liters, and my fertilizer, I've got almost 1,000 liters. So that's going to give us a little bit of a head start on our next thing, and then we have lime, which we won't need for a while. So if I look at the base information for today's finances, we've got $22,593 of direct harvest income, plus this $2,295 is our environmental bonus that we were able to receive off of those crops. So that is a total of $24,888. It cost us $11,137 to lease the harvester, the header, and the trailer. The harvester and the header also incurred an additional charge for an hour above and beyond the 5.1% additional leasing cost. We also avoided some additional overages or potential overages that would be coming up, in that we've invested $80,000, and I'm using the word invested tongue-in-cheek because I've already talked about how we don't invest in equipment in this generational farming series because we're not able to keep it. So it's a cost. So let's be clear. I need to make $8,000 a year if we're here 10 years just to break even on having this tractor. And there's a little bit of fluctuation, but the fluctuation is simply that I'm going to be able to sell it for something. But you can see already I've got 0.7 hours on this tractor. It's in essence brand new. I barely used it for an hour. I've almost lost $20,000. So at a minimum, I need to make up the $20,000, and that's just going to get worse as we go along. But either way, if you're trying to be super conservative, if you want to give yourself a little bit of slack, fine. Say maybe you'll be able to sell it for half by the time we leave. We'll see what the reality ends up being. But even if I could sell it for half, I need to make $4,000 a year in profit in a 10-year cycle, and obviously it would be, closer if I'm on the short end or in the middle of that, say 5. I need to make now 8,000, even though I'm getting 40,000. So you can see how quickly this can run up, because the likelihood is, while here they may leave us for 10, I'm hoping it's going to be, as I said, a longer period, because we're starting off, so to at least give people some time to get their footing under them and have a possibility. But let's talk now in detail of the futileness of crops, in how this works and what the finances really are. So I also got canola off one of these fields, if you remember, and I was able to get that canola off the field without any supply costs. So I didn't have to plant it. So I had no seed, I had no fertilizer, and if I was going to weed and spray, I would have had no herbicide. I had no lime invested in my canola. So even with that, I made $28,141 in total profit this year, in total income this year. My lease costs, this is excluding the $80,000 that I'm looking here, the equipment I needed to lease was $49,237, which is obviously higher than $28,141. So this is the financial reality that we've now proven out with data about why this would be a losing proposition to continue with crops. And it's important to understand you then need to make up any other costs you have. So within all that, the $28,141 profit does include us taking away the seeds and the fertilizer we did use and so forth. So that's accounted for. But as I buy equipment, as I buy facilities, which we'll be doing for grass, all of that needs to get made up. So that's where we're then looking at, I'd need to make up 80,000. Well, clearly, I'm down 21. I've already lost, so now I need to make up over 100,000 if I continue down this path. And so this is what I'm saying. Like, you could keep yourself afloat by taking out a loan. I don't have a loan. There's not a single person I've talked to that is in this competition that doesn't have a loan, of anyone that I've talked to. I'm not saying there isn't someone out there who also isn't playing this way, but I've worked very, very hard to do that. And part of the way that I've gotten to where I am right now, you can see I've pulled in over $140,000 of income in contracts and things that we were getting off of those contracts. And I busted my hump to do that. I think that's legitimately unsustainable. I put forth significant effort to see what it would take, and I will say I spent 7 to 8 hours at minimum on the servers each day. So we're talking about 14 to 16 hours of time to make this. So about $1,000 an hour. Or $10,000 an hour, I'm sorry. So $10,000 an hour. But the reality is most folks aren't going to have time. I'm not normally going to have time. Like, I don't feel that's sustainable to actually make yourself successful on the farm. But at the short end right now is, without subsidizing with contracts, if you run crops, you will be losing money. Because again, the field sizes don't matter. It's going to be very, very challenging regardless, because of just the output. It's just going to take more time. If you expand fields, it's going to take more product. So if you're leasing, you're going to burn more hours. Even if you're buying equipment, you've got to have the time to do it. And over such a short period of time as we are on the map, trying to make up for most of the equipment that people are buying, because I've also noticed people aren't doing what I did, which was get the Rostelmash, try to put a 6-meter header on it, and then suddenly find out you don't have enough power. They're going the normal route of, let's buy something really large or lease something really large. And so instead of spending the $4,000 that I did on the harvester lease, I looked at an FM who was harvesting their sunflower field that is, I think, smaller than what I got, because I think they told me they only got like 20,000 when they sold their sunflowers off of field 16, and they rented a harvester for $14,000. So their price was 3.5 times mine. My entire cost for everything for the harvest was not that high. So, I'm being extremely conservative and being extremely frugal, and I can't make the finances work. So at this point, I'm 100% certain the finances can't work. If someone can prove us wrong, that's great. But if we're doing scientific analysis, we do it with real data. And the real data, as you can see, and you can certainly then push back, you can comment below. Certainly love to hear from folks. If you think, oh, you could have done this, you could have done that. I've done everything I can to keep those costs down, and the reality is I just don't think there's a way to milk more blood out of the turnip. So with that, knowing that this is a losing proposition, the first thing I'm now going to do is I'm going to part with this planter that we did get on sale, but we're not going to put any of these things in the ground going forward, so I don't need it. So that adds $1,636 to my bank account. That basically covers the lease of the header that I just did. So, all of those things kind of run together nicely. All right, so what's the path forward now on the farm if we're not doing crops? So the path forward, as I've said, is grass. So I'm going to run over here and take a peek, because this is the corner that is of interest to me. As I was plowing, I was kind of taking a look at the map. I think I'm going to be able to put my fermenting silo here, because there's a little bit more room. You can see it kind of goes up from the field a bit, hoping it'll fit. I don't need the fermenting silo yet until I'm actually got something to put in it and ferment. So I'm going to hold off on that purchase right now. Once again, doing everything I can to keep myself out of the red. But what I need to do, because I knew there was a little bit of a constraint on the growing window, but I am right there. If I don't get grass in the ground this month, I can't do anything with it for the next 3 months. So I need to get grass in the ground. And herein, in the analysis, is where we ran into a bit of a problem. Unless we want to buy a larger tractor, which going forward I don't need. So I want to be clear on that. Like, I have that tractor, it's 107 horse. I was pulling 8,000 liters up the hills to get to Les Jardins, and it did fine. It slowed down from 25 to 20. So even if I have double that, I'm comfortable. I'm not going to get stuck, and I'm not going to be able to not get somewhere, because the livestock location is up in that same area. I have to go up some hills to get to it. So that was an important thing that I was monitoring, to make sure that I don't run into a situation where I get stuck at 0 miles an hour and I can't get up a hill with the equipment I'm going to be using. But I don't feel I'm going to have any kind of a problem in that case. But to plant grass, I need a seeder instead of a planter, which is why we got rid of what we needed. The other thing to notice here is it says H25 plus NS3030. This is suggesting that you've got a couple items here. So the HK25 it's talking about is this power harrow, which uses 100. And then I think this was the Amazon 301, which uses 115. So these are my two choices. And so it's possible you'd be getting both of these items here for this price. I'm not entirely clear on that, and nor am I going to experiment with it here, because, you know, I've got the other challenge, you know, in that I just like to direct seed and be done with it. So I can do that with this, and then I get the added benefit here of 6 meters, 9 miles an hour versus 3 meters, 7 miles an hour. So I'm going to get done substantially faster. And in either case, even if I was doing these, I'm having to get a power source that I don't have, which is what I was talking about earlier about an additional set of leases that I need to go through. So I need to get a tractor and something to get my crop in the ground. The most cost-effective thing I've been able to determine is I'm going to use this, because this seeder offers direct seeding. I don't have to cultivate or plow. I can just go. And even if these things are together, while they're substantially less expensive, in this case, for my, you know, I just think it makes more sense, because I've had difficulty. I've used this in other series, which is the same type of setup, and it did not properly cultivate. So at this point, I am not able to devote time right now to the work that needs to be done. So what I don't want to do is rent something and have it sit and then run the risk of additional rental costs. And so the other thing I'm looking at is basically I'm going to be renting this Fendt Vario, I think, in this configuration. So you're going to, well, hold on, because again, I don't have the GPS. So in this configuration, so it's going to cost me $10,000 plus whatever the cost of seeder's going to be, and then obviously I'll have to buy some seed and so forth. I will be back here later when I can delve into this. I just need to get it in today. At this point, I've got the harvest off. We've got clouds if somehow it was going to rain. Rain doesn't stop us from planting. And so the reason I'm doing what I'm doing and renting in this case is once I have grass in the ground, I am never planting anything on these fields ever again. It's just going to regrow. I'm going to keep mowing it. It's all going to be wonderful. So I've got kind of a one-time thing that I need to do. I've got more than enough now with the $68,000 to lease things, and then I'll be able to go ahead and purchase what I need going forward, which I'll explain on the tail end here of this episode. But in the meantime, we're going to get some grass planted, but just not right now. So I'll see you in a bit. I am back on and ready to get to work. So I have a tractor already, but man, this one caught my eye, because at a minimum it's 280 horse and so forth. So it's like, what's wrong with it? But I'm thinking there's probably some really unique purposes. Like, for example, this is just a PTO hookup. You can add a 3-point and so forth. You know, so it gets right up there, but it's got a lot more horsepower. But man, I'd be so worried that something wouldn't work. Because at this point I could almost, you know, if I sold the other one back, like, this would almost be a wash. But just like I said, it seems like there's some sort of thing that will catch me, but I don't know. The fact that it's on sale as much as it is. Well, this is either going to make or break me, I'm guessing. I'm going to go ahead. It's hard to pass that up. The lease for the tractor that I need, basically the price difference I'm going to have here, it's going to be a wash. So I'm going to sell this back for $60,383. Obviously want the 3 points so I can hook whatever I need up to it. And I want a GPS, but now it's 78,690. So it's not quite a wash, but pretty darn close, I'll tell you that. Well, I'm hoping I'm not going to regret this. But here goes. I suppose if nothing else, there's the one I just sold back that I could always buy back, I guess. Alright. So anyway, that was unexpected, I will say that. Now, I'm sure, I mean, it's not that beat up, but I'm just going to take a look, because certainly repairing this thing is going to be, I'm sure, significantly more expensive. 1,400, that's actually not bad when it's basically 3/4 of the way down. I don't know that it would be that different. But what that changes in our situation now is I just need to rent the seeder. So I'm still going with the one I was planning on going with. So here we go, 5,584. And I know I'm going to need more than 100 seeds. I don't know that I'm going to need more fertilizer. But I think at this point, let me go ahead and get some seeds. So I've got 800 in seed. And then we'll fill ourselves up with all the stuff from there. Like, I count myself quite lucky here for wherever this came from, but might have just been some random thing. I mean, it is only 50% off, so it's not like it's, you know, 90% off and somebody did something or whatever, but in any event. But yeah, this thing I like with this is this removes any concern I have about being able to do any of the work I need to be doing as far as horsepower, because I mean, again, I was going to get by with 100 horsepower. This is substantially more. You know, it might cost a little more to operate. You know, there's pros and cons, I'm sure, but this is technically less than what I paid for. Well, it is less. I mean, I paid 80 for the other tractor, and this thing was 52 at a. Or 78 all put together, so I mean, I don't know. Certainly blessed, I'll say that. So let's see. Well, I think it's giving me that because of the size, but maybe this is a smaller planter than I think. I don't think so. Alright, so that's gonna get the fertilizer. Can't get the seed from where I'm at. And again, I then don't have to worry about the activity on the tractor. You know, it's just an interesting point that I'm at 20.4, but alright. So now if I unfold this, is that it? I guess that is it, but alright. So I need... I'm going to shrink this because I honestly don't know how to use it. So I'm not going to do that. Okay, why am I not able to... There we go. I was hitting that, but anyway, I need to select grass. There it is. And then I'm going to head out to the road. Now, once again, I've got to be careful. So, I mean, I can certainly watch my work time. But basically, if I'm starting to get toward 21.4, I've got myself a problem. So, let me lower this, turn it on, and away we go. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, get this done. Now this requires, I think, 210 horse to pull, so 280 should be plenty. But obviously, you know, I'm not exceeding it by a lot. I mean, the other benefit I have with this tractor is if somehow I've got to like really up the horsepower, like I think I can take this thing to 425 horsepower. So if I get something insane that I decide I'm able to do, I can't even remotely imagine what that might be. I'm going to be sincere and honest here. But if somehow something were to come together that I needed it, I have the option to upgrade this thing. Now again, it's not going to be inexpensive. It's going to cost me tens of thousands of dollars, but as far as the risk, I've eliminated my tractor risk. Let's be honest. My only concern is, do I not know something about these tractors that is going to suddenly create a massive problem for me? But, I mean, I think this has more horsepower than I could max out on the other tractor that was in the used shop that was more than double the price. It was like $123,000 on sale, and I think that maxes out at 225 horse. And I have 280 here. It's just insane. I just can't get over it. But, alright. Let me just run this one down here. I think I'm going to need to back this up. I just can't get in with the tree easily. But that's the other thing that I really like, is I love articulated trailers like this. I've got my case on my main farm, so as far as maneuverability for stuff like this, you can see it's like pinpoint accuracy. I love it. So I don't have to play any kind of games. It's gonna probably be much easier to get around. So if somehow I ever have to rent something else, then I can do that. Now the other piece this is going to open up is I could, although I don't know that that makes sense, I could go with a bigger forage wagon, but so that I have to make less trips, but that's just a convenience and not a necessity. But you know, it eliminates that possibility that I had in my head, because the forage wagon carries 16,000 liters, I think. The one I'm expecting to get. And that could have been a challenge with the 100 horsepower tractor, depending on where I was hauling things. Alright. So I don't want to waste a ton of time here, but let me... Alright, I'm up, I'm down. I think I'm going to need to run some more here, because this does create kind of a big footprint for going around. So I think because of the trees, although I could go in and out, but I think running at least one of these is going to be good, because then I can give myself a little bit of maneuvering room about the trees. So, you know, this isn't super wide, but it's wide enough that I really shouldn't have a challenge. And once again, because of the size of the towing power I've got on this, it's a minimal impact, and I can move along at full speed. Because don't forget, this is 9 miles an hour, where the other one was 7 and smaller. So but I am gonna probably go ahead and run up and down here, because if I can avoid weaving out onto the road and going out to the trees, I think that can do nothing but help me. So, you know, maybe I'll only run a couple, so I'll head back over that little teardrop on that end. I'll be able to deal with when I go back. You know, I'm feeling pretty good about my capacities here, though, because, you know, we're only adding 30 kilograms of nitrogen. So the challenge has been, like, I was initially like, well, I'm not going to fertilize again. I'm just going to take whatever I can with the grass, because I think, once again, the equipment to get the fertilization done and so forth might be a challenge. However, you know, again, with the tractor, I just have to leave the possibility open that I may have some other ideas here. So let me go back one more time, but the teardrops can be handled where I can dance around the little bit that I need to on the field. I also missed a little bit there, but that's all right. Because we're certainly, you know, going to get more grass in theory if we fertilize, but grass with precision farming kind of maintains a 50% fertilized state. It's like automatically fertilized, so it's not like I go to nothing, and it kind of sits there. So it's just a lot of questions, I suppose. So I am going to go ahead and, you know, count my blessings and get this done. And when everything is said and done, we'll come back for the next step of this engagement, and we'll see where we're at. So I'll see you in a bit. Just about done here. I got this little piece of touch-up here. I just would like to make sure I have every little bit of land producing that I can, because I have just a little bit of land. So the last thing I want to do is waste that. So it took about half an hour. As you can see, we're at 20.9 hours. So I'm just going to pop up here, and I'm going to drop my fertilizer and my seed, because obviously I don't want to give that away. And then we're going to return this, and we are all set. So let's take a look at this thing now that we've got time and we're not under the clock. So it's a little cobbled together. Maybe that's partially why it was a tractor that's kind of inexpensive. It certainly doesn't have the nice typical finish of a JD, but I just need something to work. And again, the price is insane. So the one thing I did realize, and I don't think it's going to be a problem because we'll just put the mower on the back, is my initial thing was I was just going to buy a mower, but not the wing mowers, because the wing mowers, A, required a lot of horsepower, and then it also required windrowing and so forth. So the thought was, not sure that I'm really saving a whole lot of time otherwise, and even if I am, like, time is something I have that's somewhat free at this point. Nobody's, I'm not getting charged, and it's not impacting my score here. So, I'm going to have to see what things look like. So, pH value, obviously we did have things on here after we had limed it, so it's starting to go down. That's part of, again, what I'm going to have to decide, because I'm going to have to see what happens to my environmental score, and then I'll make a decision if I ever lime again. But let's take a look at now the equipment we need. And again, because I'm feeling like incredibly blessed as the position I'm in. I'm still debt free. I have $44,250. I have this gigantic tractor. I've got crop in the ground now that I then don't have to ever plant again. And so now all I need to do is work it. And my plan is to work it with a mower and a forage wagon. And that's it. All right, so the situation that's going to basically change is just where this connects. But this is the mower that I'm looking at. It's the smallest thing we can, at least expensive thing we can do. It's actually cheaper than the 2.4 meter. I get a little bit extra working with, basically another 33%. But rather than, then going up and dealing with wings and so forth, got a mower. Just I don't have a PTO on the front with that, but the mower can go on the back or the front. It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to go ahead and purchase this. And then I just need a forage wagon, because if I just mow and I don't use the wings, I'm just creating, in essence, rows already. And this will work just fine. It's going to take more trips, but again, time that we've got. So I can go ahead, purchase this, and I need you to be amazed with me. Like, I've got all this. I've got all the equipment I need without any debt. Now, I'm going to have to go into debt, likely, to purchase the fermenting silo. But maybe not, because I've obviously shown that with contracts, I can make a good amount of money. I'm going to need $60,000, but maybe a little bit more, because there might be some uneven ground or something, so it may end up costing me, $62,000 to put it down or something. I don't know. But, at this point, I am set for grass, and this is the point, and this is why, looking at the modeling, this is why this made sense. Like, it can be done for next to nothing. So let me get this connected up. I don't need to put the PTO in, because I'm not going to mow anything right now, but I'm put it in just to show that it works. Once again, you fold it down, you've got your working space and so forth. So yes, unlike others who are going to mow and, have big mowers and can jump on and can mow their whole field in 15 minutes, that's not going to be me. But I think I'm going to be laughing all the way to the bank, because they're going to have spent 5-6 times as much as I did just to save time. And once again, time I have, money I don't, and I can't make up money by making up time. At the end of the day, when these fields grow, I'm getting one batch of grass off them. Does it matter if I get the grass mowed in 2 hours versus 15 minutes? No. But it does matter to the pocketbook. Oops, gotta lower it first, so we'll do that. And then we'll drop it down here. There we go. So we got one piece of equipment nearby. So yeah, this has worked out splendidly. I don't even have words for just how things have come together. Better than I had hoped. Because initially the plan was 107 horsepower tractor that I had, the Zetor. And obviously we did that so that we could avoid the lease cost on having the other tractor going to the sell point. And again, I put 0.7 hours on there, so like if I had to rent a tractor and do the field, like it took me half an hour and then it would have taken me 0.7 hours. So, in the end, that probably means ultimately I've got a wash in total. Like, this has netted me nothing at a loss to do the swap that I did, because I was still able to get over $60,000 for the $80,000 tractor that I had just purchased and barely used. And then, it would have cost me over $10,000 to rent that tractor, but then there would have been an additional hourly charge of, I think, like another $4,000 or something. So it really is pretty darn close to net zero. So I'm pretty excited. Now, I'm going to be the first to tell you, it looks a little ridiculous using these small implements with this monster tractor, but I don't care. Because again, people want to laugh at me, that's fine. But this is how you have a chance of winning this thing. You don't go crazy with stuff that you don't need to go crazy with. So here's what we got. Now the big challenge, or the only challenge I will say, is this is one of those tractors that don't appear on the map. Now let me see, because I have not... Okay, I bet they show up as tools. Yeah, okay, so I can get into it. Because that was going to be my thing, is like I can't actually pop into my tractor off the map, which is kind of difficult. But it just dawned on me that that might be the thing, is that they're just not a tractor officially. So for whatever reason, they're not. So at this point, I'm all set. But you can see we've got growth stage 1 of 3. So, we got to wait for it to grow. But by getting things in the ground, I mean, at this point, all I care about is the yellow bar. I'm done with planting season, hopefully forever, on this generation and on this server. Like, I planted, this grass just grows, and I just work it. So, this is 1, 2, 3. So January I'll be able to cut it. Now, folks have been saying they're getting 3. If I take 12 and divide it by 3, I get 4. But maybe there's something I'm kind of missing in how the farming simulator dynamic is going to work that won't allow us to get 4 cuttings off in a year. But I'm thinking I might be able to get 4 cuttings in a year, not just 3. And what we're looking at placing is this. What I may end up doing is just putting it here, because technically I own this land. Because, yeah, the challenge with this is I need to get to both sides. So the output is the piece that's now facing the field. That's where the silage will come out. And I'm dumping my grass here. I could, I think, do something like this, because the other piece that we need to be cognizant of is let me see if I rotate this. I just don't know. With the trees, I'm worried I'm going to get hung up. And I think, if I go here, I could. It looks like maybe it's letting me put it on the end here, but to me, it's the same thing. Like, if I put it here, but I don't technically own this road, or this, this part, I still have the issue. I think if I place it here, it's gonna pop into the field, and I'm trying to avoid doing that. So I'm just kind of trying to plan ahead. Because let's see, do I have, I mean, this is relatively wide too. Okay, so at this point, I'm having thoughts, but I'm probably getting ahead of myself, so I'm just gonna let them ferment for a bit. But like I said, I'm just trying to see how I can leverage my situation and make improvements, because I think I'm in a really, really good spot at this point, and may have, through the insanely long days, at least gotten myself to have negated the downside of what else happened with putting crops in first, but time will tell in a little bit. So I'm going to be done for now, but definitely happy I got everything I needed together. Looking at contracts, we don't have anything great. This one looks good on dollars until you realize it's sugar beets. That's going to take a bit of time. So not something I'm going to delve into. You know, these might make sense, but right now, you know, can't look at them. So if somebody grabs them, so be it. But some cultivating contracts could come up. There's some big fields that were harvested, and you know, maybe those will pop up when I'm available and I can start digging into things. But for now, I'm going to sign off, and I hope you've enjoyed what has happened here. If you like this video, certainly, if you haven't liked it already, certainly would appreciate if you can click that thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, I would appreciate if you do that as well. And feedback at the bottom is always great. I read everything, respond to everything, and I will see you guys next time.